Hey everybody, so this is part 3 of the video or of the project, and this is going to be adding a border to your dishcloth if you want to. You don't have to, you can close it off right here, but we're going to add a border and then I'll show you how to close it off. So when you get to the end of your row, which is where I'm at right now, I'm not going to turn anymore or anything like that. I'm just going to stop it. So because I'm in a corner, it's going to be a little different. If you cut your yarn and then tied it off and then decided you wanted to add a border, it would be a little bit different. But because you're at the end of your row, and normally you would chain one right here, but we're not going to do another row. We're just going to start right here with making our border. And actually the border is going to be the same stitch that you've used throughout this whole dishcloth, so it should be easy because it's something that you've been doing. So at the end, remember that we're going to just do a border. So every corner that you're going to, and you should be at a corner, which is why I'm starting here. Every corner that you get to, you're going to put 3 single crochets in that hole right there. And the reason you're going to do 3 is so you can turn it and it look nice and sort of squared off on the corner. And you're only doing that on the corner. So again, it's just a stitch that you've been using. So you're going to take your hook, insert it into that hole right there, and you are going to grab and loop over just like you've done throughout this whole project. But you're going to do 3 in that particular space. So you've got your 3, and then you can sort of see what that looks like, and you can see that it'll help you turn the corner. All right, so I'm just going to turn my project and I'm going to work down this side. Now what you're going to do is at the end of each one of these rows, you're going to be putting a single crochet, and it's going to be okay at this row because you have that open space, but when you get to this one, it might be a tad difficult, so bear with me. So you're going to take your needle and you're going to insert it into that big hole there. You're just going to pull it through, make your single crochet just like you've been doing. When you get right here, you see that hole right there? See that one right there? It's underneath that stitch. Just insert it, make your single crochet. Go down to the next, and these are the end of rows. That's what those are. So go in, insert it right here. Where your yarn is or your stitch, just insert your needle or your hook. And just keep going all the way down. And you can see how your border is starting to look. So you get right here, and you may have to insert your hook just to kind of see the hole there, but insert it. Go right here and insert it and do your loop. And just keep moving down the project, and there is our border. And again right here, and like you're doing this at the end of every single row of the washcloth or dishcloth rather. Okay, so you're just going to keep going. I'm going to go all the way down so you can see. We can get back to the end again. So like I said, this is the stitch that you've been working on this whole entire project with, so you should be familiar with this stitch. The biggest thing is where you're putting the stitch in the cloth. And again, if you want to look, I got myself a little knot there. I got to get it out. That's when I pull off too much yarn. I'm bad about it. I do it all the time. Okay, so again, we're looking at the project. You want to go under. Now, if you don't want to go underneath that whole one, you don't have to. You can stick your hook in between each of those 2 yarn pieces there. I just go under mine just because that's what I like to do. Again, for the next row, there's the hole right there. You might have to stick your hook in it just to see it. But you're going to just keep going until you get all the way to the end. And the beauty of watching this on video is so that you can pause it and restart as many times as you need to. All right, so I'm gonna get all the way to the end. I've got a few more stitches to go. And don't get frustrated if you don't put it in the right spot. That is okay. That's what a beginner's class is for. And remember, you can always frog it and start over if you choose to. All right, so I'm getting toward the end. And remember, now this end's not as nice as that end up there because we were at our end and we were able to move on. So this one's not as nice as this one yet. So it's going to take a little extra work here. But what I like to do on this particular corner is we are going to do the same thing we did here. We're going to put 3 stitches in that same hole to turn it. So there's our first one basically that we just did to end that row. So you're going to put another one, and you're going to put another one, and that's going to allow you to turn that row. So now what you're going to do is just come across. Now this is a little difficult, but basically you're just going to do it at each end of each one of those stitches. So find your spot the best you can. I'm just going to stick mine right here underneath. Get some more yarn. The border does take practice. Like I said, if you don't want to add the border, that's totally up to you. I like the look of a border on mine. But again, when you get to this side, you're basically just going to be sticking your hook underneath the stitch the best you can. But you want to make sure that you get it at each stitch, so it's pretty even. Like you wouldn't want to go, you wouldn't want to skip a couple intentionally. Just try to get it at the end of each one. And like these borders are a little difficult sometimes, especially for a newbie. Heck, it's different or difficult for somebody that's been doing it for a couple months. To just force that needle or that hook underneath there and just keep it going. Uh-oh, see, I messed up right there. I didn't grab my yarn. And I'm trying to do this and look through my phone, so it's a little awkward. But this is what you're going to do on all 4 sides. Remember, when you get to those corners, you're going to put 3 single crochets into the corner, so it will allow you to turn your project and start up the next row. Okay, so I'm just going to keep it going here. I'll make it silent for a minute, and y'all probably thinking, good, so I can focus. But just, you can see I'm struggling a little to find a spot. But that's what happens with the border, because we're actually into our foundation chain. That's where we are right here. So we're just going to keep it going. Keep it going. I'm almost to the end. And remember, when you get to the end, we're going to do those 3 and that last one and keep it moving. Okay, so I'm at the end. Now, again, because remember, this is our foundation chain. So I'm going to go into that foundation chain, start on the end with my 3 so I can turn it. All right, so I'm going to go in there. And you always want to do 3 at the corners. Okay, so I've got my 3, and I sort of jacked up a little bit right there. And now we're going to go back down this other side, just like we've been doing. So I'm going to let you do it, and I'll meet you back. When you get to the corner, keep going, do your 3, go all the way back across. When you get, actually, we're going to stop at that one. So you're only going to do 3 sides because we sort of have a makeshift border there. So when you get this side done right there, you're going to stop. So I'll meet you back at the end of that side. Now I do want to show y'all something that I'm going to do, and you can do this if you want to, if you feel okay to do it. This is the tail from my my slip knot and my foundation chain. Sorry about that. What I'm going to do is lay this across, and I'm going to, as I'm doing my stitches, I'm going to stitch over that so I don't have to worry about weaving that in. So I'll show you what I mean. Okay. So you see how I've got it just sort of laid on top of the project. So when I go in to do my stitches, I'm just going to make sure that it's enclosed in that stitch. And it may be a little difficult the first couple of times you do it because, you know, this is something new. But if you don't want to try this, you just want to weave it in, then by all means you can leave it out and we'll weave it in. But I am going to do this for mine. I'm just going to lay it there on top as I go across. And remember each row. Now, depending on this row is a little different from the other side. So just put your hook in to a spot the best you can. When you're working on adding borders, because we're turning projects and we're doing, you know, a couple stitches to turn and all that, it's not as pretty as, you know, a regular, the top of a stitch or the top of that V stitch. It does look a little different. So that's why you may struggle a tad bit with the border. But just stick it in to one of those sections the best you can, like I'm doing here. And you can see I have like a bigger hole there, and you just basically have to put it where you can find a spot. All right, so I'll meet you at the end. And I'm just going to keep my video on because I'm almost there. And then I'm going to show you what to do with that end. Actually, there will be no end to weave if you've used this particular size yarn and you're doing like I'm doing right here. You've laid that in there. Now, here's the problem with doing that. As you can see, sometimes it doesn't look as pretty because it's laying on top of that, on top of your project. So sometimes when I do that, I will pull it out because I don't like the way that it looks. But in this particular case, I'm gonna just let it go. Okay. So let it keep going until I get to the end. I'm almost there. This was a fun project. The washcloths look really good. And the beauty of this is, you know, if you don't like it, you can do what I did when I started making them. I threw many of them in the trash and just started over. Okay, so I'm at the end. I'm gonna go grab my scissors. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with my camera. I'm gonna go grab my scissors and I'll be right back. I guess I should have had them prior to, but I didn't even think about it. Didn't even think I needed it. Okay, sorry about that pause. All right, so I'm at the end. So what I'm gonna do is, because I'm not gonna go that way because that was my last row that I did when I got to the end for the border, and it actually looks really good. So I'm just gonna cut this off a little bit. Okay, so this is how we're gonna do with weaving our project in. So we're done. So we want to basically tie this off. So what we're going to do is just take this tail and loop it over and pull it through just like this so we can tie it off. So our washcloth is basically done. So now what we have to do is we have to weave this piece in right here. And I'm going to show you a couple different ways that I like to weave mine in. So stay tuned.